Good afternoon po. Yung topic ko for today is virtual reality. So yung contents po ng report ko is what is virtual reality, types of virtual reality, hardware used in virtual reality, applications of virtual reality, advantages and disadvantages of VR, difference between VR and AR. So first, what is virtual reality? Virtual reality means feeling the imaginary or virtual world rather than the real one. The imaginary world is a simulation running in a computer. So unlike sa reality or the actual world which we live, virtual reality means simulating bits of our world or completely imaginary worlds. So VR po, we experience things through our computers that don't really exist. So next, virtual reality is the term used for computer-generated 3D environments that allow the user to enter and interact with alternate realities. So sa VR po, gumagamit po tayo ng technologies that allows us to enter and interact with alternate realities. So, yung alternate realities po yun po yung imaginary world. Next naman po is the definition of virtual is here and reality is what we experience as human beings. So, the term virtual reality basically means near reality. Next, types of virtual reality. First, immersive virtual reality. Immersion into virtual reality is a perception of being physically present in a non-physical world. Example po, pag gumagamit po tayo ng virtual reality, pwede po tayo maka-experience po na andun po tayo sa isang lugar pero wala po talaga tayo doon. So yun po yung immersive virtual reality. Next naman po is non-immersive virtual reality. Large display but doesn't surround the user. So sa non-immersive virtual reality po, nakakapag-experience po tayo through a computer na nag-a-allows po sa atin to control characters and activities from within the software. Pero yung environment po is not directly interacting back po sa atin. So next naman po is window on world virtual reality. Desktop-based virtual reality involves displaying a three-dimensional virtual on regular desktop display without use of any specialized movement tracking environment. So some system use conventional computer monitor to display the visual world. So minsan, ito po yung tinatawag natin desktop VR or a window on a world. Next naman po is hardware devices po na ginagamit natin sa virtual reality. Ito po yung input devices and output devices. So first, input devices, examples. Ryo VR, Razer Hydra, Leap Motion, STEM, Magic Wand, Control VR. So ito po yung mga devices na ginagamit natin sa virtual reality. Next naman po is the output devices. Meron tayong headset, 3D audio, sensing gloves, and Helsinki. The next naman po, ito naman po yung application of virtual reality. Kung saan po ginagamit yung virtual reality po. Virtual reality in the military. So mahalaga din po yung virtual reality pag nagtitraining po ito mga sa military po. The next naman po is virtual reality in healthcare. virtual reality and education. Mahalaga po to kasi po kasi po na improve po natin yung education by providing students with memorable and immersive experiences na-experience po nila sa virtual reality po na akala nila hindi pwede. So magkakaroon po sila ng additional knowledge through virtual reality. Next naman po is virtual reality and scientific visualization. Next, virtual reality in entertainment. So dito po sa scientific visualization po, mahalaga din po ito para mas makita po nila yung ibang scientific. Mali. Next naman po, advantages naman po ng VR. First, virtual reality creates a realistic world. So, kanina po sinabi ko, yung sa virtual reality po, nakagawa po sila ng alternate world, alternate realities. Realistic po talaga, katulad po sa world natin, sa real world. Next, it enables user to explore places. For example, kung nga po kanina is immersive, pwede po tayo using virtual reality, pwede po tayo mag-explore na ibang places, pero wala po talaga tayong physically contact po dun sa place na yon. Through virtual reality, user can experiment with an artificial environment. Ito na rin po, pwede po sila mag-experiment din po. Then, virtual reality make the education more easily and comfort. So, yung virtual reality, mas na-emphasize or mas naiintindihan po ng estudyante po yung some lessons na tinuturo sa kanila. Then, mas maganda po minsan kasi po na-experience po doon ng student yung mga lessons para mas maintindihan po nila. Po is yung disadvantages naman po ng virtual reality. The equipments used in virtual reality are very expensive. So, wala po talagang mura sa equipments or sa devices na kailangan gamitin sa virtual reality. Next, it consists of complex technology. Hindi, yung may mga mahirap din po gamitin sa virtual reality, kaya complex po siya. Hindi po madali gamitin yung iba. Next naman po is virtual reality environment we can move by our own like in the real world. So dahil nga virtual siya, hindi tayo makagalaw na nagagawa natin talaga. Next naman po is the difference between augmented reality and virtual reality. So first po, yung sa purpose niya, augmented reality, isa po siyang real-time use of information in the form of text, merong graphics, audio, and other visual enhancements integrated with real objects. So dito sa augmented reality, using lang po ng camera or smartphone, makakapag-add na po tayo ng objects sa real world po natin, mismo ina-add po sa real world natin. Then dito naman po sa virtual reality, the system replaces reality, completely simulates the virtual environment. So, ito po talaga, completely, ibig sabihin, cover na po talaga lahat. Computer-generated environment po with scenes and objects that appear to be real. So, parang mapipil po natin na na-immerse po tayo sa surroundings. Napiperceive din po tayo dito. Next naman po is virtual versus real experience. So, augmented reality experience is 25% virtual and 75% real. The virtual reality experience is 75% virtual and 25% real. So, sa augmented po kasi, yung mismo ina-add po natin sa reality po natin. So, sa 25% lang po siya dahil yung 75 is yung totoo po. Then dito po sa virtual reality, ito po yung nasasakop niyo po talaga yung vision natin. Kaya nagiging 75% po. Control of the senses. Users have a sense of being in the real world. And then sa virtual reality, visual senses are under the control of the system. So segmented po, meron pa rin po tayong sense sa real world. And then dito naman po sa virtual reality, hindi po na, dahil po na-immerse tayo, so yung visual senses po natin, nakafocus lang po doon or nakakontrol po ng system. Kasi po, tayo ng ng headset po. So yan, nakafocus lang yung visual natin sa virtual reality. The next naman po is degree of immersion. Users are partially immersed into the action. Sa virtual reality, users are fully immersed into the action. Augmented reality po, partially immersed lang po kasi siya kasi 25% lang po ng virtual po yung ginagamit dito. Nandito po sa full immersed po siya kasi po kasi kapag gumagamit tayo ng virtual reality, doon lang talaga tayo nakafocus kasi parang wala tayong pakay sa iba. So, na full immersed tayo na uh, na-mesmerize po tayo. The next naman po is enhancement target. AR enhances both real and virtual worlds. VR enhances a fictional reality. So sa AR naman po, maganda rin po siya kasi po, paras po niya na-enhance po yung real and virtual world. Sa virtual reality, fictional po reality, ibig sabihin, gawa-gawa lang po siya. So imaginary world po. And then sa devices naman po, no special AR devices are needed, only cameras and smartphone. So dito po, may special, sa virtual reality, may special VR devices are needed like headset, gloves, etc. So kaya po expensive yung virtual reality. Next naman po is the bandwidth. Bandwidth, higher bandwidth for top quality experiences, lower bandwidth requirements. Reality po, nag-require po siya na around 100 Mbps po, while sa virtual reality po, 25 Mbps lang po. Para mas maganda po yung experience po, smooth lang po. Next naman po, may play lang po akong video, last na po to. Thank you po sa pakikinig.
Almost exactly 1 year ago, I showed off the best and most advanced VR headset
showed off the best and most advanced VR headset in the world, the Varjo XR3, an $8,000 beast from the future. And that video has by far become the most viewed video on this channel. But little did I know that I'd only scratched the surface of the capabilities of this headset. And with the help of Varjo themselves, we have pushed the XR3 to its limits and inadvertently blurred the lines between virtual and reality. Have you ever asked yourself, what if you legitimately couldn't tell what was real and what wasn't? Well, today we're going on a trip to Finland to the Varjo headquarters to take a look at the absolute most cutting-edge virtual reality hardware on the planet, to a place where those lines between reality and virtual reality are becoming harder and harder to define. And to explore this idea to the furthest extent, we'll need to head to Helsinki, the capital of Finland and home base to the Varjo headquarters. Whereas most of the VR industry is focused on building VR for the mass consumer, Varjo has a laser focus on building the highest fidelity VR devices possible. On one hand, leading to the XR3 costing more than 20 Quest 2s with an annual subscription on top of that. But on the other hand, leading to companies across the world using Varjo headsets for all sorts of things in the medical, automobile, and engineering world. But let me just give a quick recap on the XR3 specs, because this is not your typical VR headset and it'll make everything make a little more sense. Featuring 4 displays, 2 in the peripheral vision at 2880 by 2720 per eye, and 2 tiny focus displays at 1920 by 1920 per eye. This combination allows for the highest perceived resolution of any VR headset ever made, with what Varjo says is true human eye resolution, at least in the center of the display. The visuals are quite literally unmatched, but the magic isn't in the displays, it's in the sensor package on the front of the headset. When you think of pass-through on a VR headset, this is what most people know, but with the XR3, a combination of sensors, LiDAR, and cameras make both reality and virtual reality come together. And this is where things start to get a little crazy, and where we start our journey. At the Varjo headquarters, I visited 3 rooms that they use for testing: the white room, the green room, and the experimental room. And these rooms are where the lines between reality and virtual reality become blurred. I'll start with the white room. This is where Varjo tests the masking tool, essentially bringing virtual objects into reality and real objects into VR. And they must know a little about me because one of the first tests was in VR chat. The masking tool allows you to cut holes in virtual reality. This can be to see objects or to be aware of your surroundings, but it can also be used for all sorts of other things, like masking out certain objects so you can interact with them while in VR. Starting off simply, we masked out a physical clipboard as a trackable real-world object. And it was incredibly weird to have someone hand me something I could see in virtual reality, but the object was real and readable. It was just cut out of VR. But even this alone has so much potential for how we can stay connected with the real world while in VR. You could mask out a cup, or your phone, or a DJ deck. However, this whole idea very quickly errs on the trippy side of things. What happens if you mask out a mirror in VR chat for a real mirror? Or leave what I like to call a reality portal, an actual portal where when you walk through in VR, you're back in reality. And when you want to go back into VR chat, you just walk back through the reality doorway. And I don't think this would be as big of a deal if the camera pass-through wasn't so hyper-realistic. But being in something like VR chat and seeing cutouts of the real world that I can interact with in high fidelity feels really weird. And I've never thought of VR being this way, but when you experience it like this, there's this weird split that I almost don't think the human brain was designed to feel, quite literally being in 2 realities at once. But the white room was just the very start. What I'm about to show you next is still something I can't quite shake. Next door is the green room. The absolute best way I could explain the green room is that it is quite possibly the closest thing in the world to a functioning holodeck from Star Trek. The holodeck essentially being a simulation room that you can walk within and kind of do anything within. And when you step into the green room and put on an XR3, reality completely dissolves around you. This room is not real. This is not real furniture, and this is not a real rug. The sunlight shining through the windows isn't shining from the sun, yet my body and hands are present. that I'm there. But the really trippy part was realizing that some of the furniture was actually real in the room, but I couldn't tell the difference. I thought everything I was seeing was a simulation until my hands brushed up against something physical, and I realized at this moment in time, I legitimately do not know what is real around me and what isn't. I can't distinguish the two. I've obviously been around real objects all my life, just like we all have been, and I've spent tens of thousands of hours in VR, but I have never truly gotten the two mixed up until now. And this just does something really weird to the brain. The only way I can try to explain this is, well, I want you to look around your room, or wherever you're at, and find an object, let's say a soda can. Imagine you move to grab that can, but your hand just passes right through. You realize at that moment that the can was virtual the whole time. It kind of makes you really look around and wonder what else is or isn't actually there. And that's kind of one of the craziest parts of mixed reality this high resolution, both in cameras and in displays. Those lines become blurred enough that you have no choice but to be immersed. Immersion is believing you're in a place, and nothing can make you more immersed than legitimately not knowing where you are and what's around you. The possibilities of something like this are insane, but we'll touch back on that in a second. Also, within the green room, I was able to test drive a Formula 1 car, but instead of the typical VR game virtual hands that don't match up with your own, the entire wheel was masked out and replaced with a virtual one, allowing my actual arms and hands to be in-game. And I'm not much of a car sim type of person, but this was incredible, leading to me getting lost in the simulation and experiencing a very harsh time distortion effect. What I thought was 10 minutes was closer to an hour, and by the time I was finished driving, I realized that I actually couldn't remember what was physically in front of me, where virtual reality started and where physical reality stopped. It wasn't until I took off the headset that I was reminded of my actual surroundings.
That is. Oh! Sorry, I got so distracted.
So the final room on this trip is the experimental room, where some of the crazier research is done.
Wait, so behind that door is.
Things that you are not feeling.
Oh.
And this is where I experienced probably one of the most uncanny feelings in my life, like total chills up my spine. You know that feeling like there's someone in the room, or like someone is staring at you, or just something's off, just that general uneasy feeling? Well, that's what it feels like to have a full-scale metahuman stare at you, making faces in mixed reality this good. It's honestly pretty terrifying feeling a human presence in front of you, full size and looking almost as real as other humans around you, but knowing that this isn't a real person. All of the sensations that we've evolved to feel are still there, but there's just something off. And I know some people debate this, and that's fair, but feeling is believing, and well, I'm a believer. Brushing the avatar's arm and feeling warmth and tingles on my fingers and hairs stand up on my arms, this is actual phantom sense, and it's an evolutionary thing, like there's no debate here. Or feeling actual shock when I poked one of the metahumans and having them react, it's incredibly uncanny. I almost had this feeling like they were going to jump out at me or start chasing me. It's almost like a fight or flight instinct was kicking in. I think it's just a weird feeling of being in the presence of something that looks alive but isn't. And of course, I was also shown a more practical version of this test where I was placing down mixed reality furniture, which looked great and super realistic, but tables don't give me chills up my spine when they stare at me, so you can imagine which had a greater impact on me. But all I can really say as the takeaway is, what the hell? Like I said, I've been in VR long enough with all sorts of devices from cheap to expensive, and I have never mixed up reality and virtual reality. But here I am second guessing things even more than I did with my original XR3 demo, and I thought that was crazy. But I think the real crazy part is that a year ago, I thought this technology was years away, and that was optimistic. That this was the best we were going to have for a long time, and that good mixed reality was even further away. But Vario says this isn't even as good as it can get. Behind closed doors, it can and is even crazier. Which begs the question, if this is how good things are now with the available products, just imagine what is behind these closed doors. I'm always looking for the most immersive or craziest virtual reality technology out there to get that initial feeling of getting in VR for the first time. But what happens when that threshold is crossed and people really can't tell what's real and what isn't real right in front of them? When the lines get blurred so much that you're practically in your own hardware-based trip? Is this a beautiful thing, or is it a terrifying thing? Or maybe somewhere in between? Is it just another piece of tech, just another screen? Or is it Pandora's box? Once opened, people never view typical reality as the same. I think this is a very valid question. It's not that existential when you think about it, because while businesses are using this technology to design cars or aid with training, the commercial world tends to take things in unexpected ways, and you never know where this could go. And I think now is both the perfect time to get excited for this sort of thing, but also to take it very seriously. Virtual reality and augmented reality isn't just Pokemon Go or Half-Life Alyx and floating hands. It is legitimately a perception-altering technology at this level. And mixed reality like this at this fidelity is so close to being in everybody's hands, and not costing $8,000. Shoot, the Quest Pro, meme or not, is releasing in just about 10 days, and that is a device literally built for mixed reality. Not quite as good as this, but it's also a fraction of the price, and that's exactly what's going to keep happening. Before you know it, VR and mixed reality and eventually augmented reality will just be one technology even better than this is, and it'll be in everyone's hands. And it's all happening so much faster than I anticipated. Every time we feel like the industry has settled, a company like Vario is going to come through around the corner and push the envelope even further, just blurring those lines between virtual and reality until maybe there is no line. And what was out of reach as a dream for most people is quickly becoming more and more accessible. We've just got a very interesting future ahead of us. I kind of just hope we're ready for it, because if you think about how society has changed pre-phone or pre-social media to now, I think we're on a weird paradigm shift that will sort of change a lot of things. It's just a very interesting time to be alive. So I'm also planning on making a history of Vario video showing the progression of how they went from the VR1 to the XR3 and what they're working on in the future. So if you're interested in that, please let me know down in the comment section, and also tell me what you'd want to see from it. It also helps this video out a lot, of course, but I also wanted to say it was an absolute honor to have the chance to even go to the Vario headquarters and share with everyone the highest end and most immersive experiences that you can have right now. So thank you, Vario, so much. And I think on the behalf of VR enthusiasts around the world, thank you as well. But other than that, I wanted to say thank you to all of my Patreon supporters, especially my Omegas. I couldn't do any of this without you. And don't forget to like this video if you loved it, subscribe if you want more of this, and hit that freaking bell if you just can't live without it. Much love, Thrill out.
Yun lang po. Thank you.